Welcome back to Drum Addicts on Andertons TV. I'm Rob, and today we've got a special guest,
Mark Pusey.
So Mark's big for all things pop, but you've also done voiceover and Ed Sheeran and just here, there, and
everywhere. I'm a freelancer, so whatever that means. So TV stuff, film stuff, pop stuff, tours, albums. If anyone needs a drummer, that's what we do as freelancers, just slot into different things.
And also today we're going to be talking about these lovely drums, because that's what Mark plays. Mark plays DW, and you have played for what, over a decade?
Yeah, I remember going to a different shop that I won't name.
That isn't blue.
That isn't blue. That was like, like 18, 19, maybe 20 years ago, and trying a green drum kit. Do you remember that song, Breakfast at Tiffany's? I watched that on Top of the Pops, and the guy was playing a DW drum kit, and I rang up my drum teacher at like 7 o'clock, or whenever Top of the Pops was on, like, oh, what drum kit's this guy playing? It looks really cool. And he's like, I don't know, it's an American thing. I don't know what that is. And then we went to go and see my nan, who lived in the area where this shop was, and they had one. They had exactly the same kit as I saw on Top of the Pops. I was like, man, that looks great. And the guy wouldn't let me play it, but he played it. He was like, oh no, I don't let people play it, but I'll give it a spin. And I stood there and watched this guy play it. I was like, wow, that's awesome. And I was like 12 years old maybe. I was like, wow, I want one of those. That's really awesome. And they sounded great, and I've been in love with them ever since. And then as I started to do more stuff, developed a relationship with the company, and been with them for years and years and years.
So Mark, you've got a couple of these performance snares, all in white, as we found out. So super smooth, cool throw off, but also, as they do with the Posher Collector series, are these tension rods. Tell us about these.
So these are DW years ago came up with this true thread thing, that there's a more thread count per centimetre on their drums than other drum companies, because it allows more accurate tuning. So on some drums you turn it halfway and you'll end up with on a smaller drum, like a semitone difference. It'll go way up in pitch. On these, a half turn won't tighten it as much, so you've got more accuracy over tuning, especially on a drum like this where you've got 10 lugs. But also it means there's more metal on metal contact inside the nut box, so the drums don't back off as quickly. It takes longer for a drum to detune. So if you've got a drum, like especially a snare drum, and you're banging on these lugs here because they're right close to you, this one won't detune as quickly because there's more metal on metal contact.
So it's a really cool feature that they're sort of bringing down the range to make it the collectors and the performance mix together.
Yeah.
The other cool thing is the mount, isn't it? So
the mount, it's the same as on the collectors. It's because they're slightly smaller lugs, slightly smaller sort of turret lugs. They had to redo the STM mounts, but it's the same STM mounts with a TB12 bracket, so these are absolutely bulletproof. And I've never known one of these ever give way or anything, and they don't touch the shell in any part of it. So the shell is not drilled; they're not even really touching the shell; they're just hanging off of the lugs. They're absolutely fantastic and comparable to the much more expensive drums. These are 8s, but they go from, I think, 8 to like 24.
Yeah, so basically picking your rack toms, floor toms and bass drums, anything from 8 to 24. So
yeah, so it's one of everything, right?
Make any combination. You probably own one of each anyway, so
yeah. Sadly not in these, but one day. And the other thing is heads as well. They come with
heads. Yes, true. Do you want to?
Yeah, all these are the same heads that you'd find on a collector's. These are the coated clear, so they've got the coated bit at the edge, which acts a little bit like a damping ring. But they're made by Remo, so they're the same. They're made to DW spec, so they're crimped at the collar, I think, is the difference. But that's effectively a 10 mil film, I think, which is comparable to an Ambassador, a clear Ambassador. But yeah, they're fantastic heads made by Remo for DW.
Now you have more gear than I do, so how many DW kits have you got?
I've got 5. About 5, yeah.
And a few of them are Performance Series snares, you were saying.
I have a couple of Performance Series snares, 14 by 5.5 and a 14 by 6.5, which is the same as this wonderful beauty here. They're amazing drums. They're really, really great drums. When they came out, it was really strange because where they're placed in the market, I was a little sort of weirded out by the fact that DW could potentially shoot themselves in the foot, because these drums are pro-level drums. They sound amazing, but they're about half the price, right, of collector's series drums?
If you went for like an exotic collector's, then yeah, these are probably about half the price.
Yeah. And they're comparable in terms of they're able to keep up from everything that a professional or a gigging drummer needs. There's they're fantastic. So I was a little worried at first, like, wow, nobody's going to buy the collector series anymore because you've just brought out this range of drums, because they're fantastic, and the snare drums see loads of use, and they're great. They're great drums.
But these are also made in the American factory, hence all the American flags dangling on them, unlike the PDP stuff that was obviously made in a different factory in a different country.
Yeah.
So, no, these are still made the same good quality drums. So
they are.
I think the reason people perceive them, that they're going to sound different, is purely by price, but actually they sound great.
Yeah.
I had one of the red ones for a little while. My favourite colour, because that was the first one I played.
That's the fastest colour, red. It's the fastest.
Fastest colour.
Yeah.
It's got go faster stripes on the heads as well. So.
Oh, amazing. Well, I've been to the factory a bunch of times. I lived over in the States for a little while, and I was 45 minutes from the factory. And there's a guy called Jose.
He's a sprayer, isn't he?
Well, no, they've got the paint guy I can't remember the guy's name, but Jose is the guy. He's a very big guy who bends the shells. And then puts them into the compression units where the shells basically get made, where they get formed. And he's a wicked Mexican guy, really funny, and big long eyelashes. I just remember my girlfriend at the time saying, wow, he's got great eyelashes. It's like, okay, that's weird, but whatever. Same guy. The same guy builds, the shell that goes into a 1,000-pound drum that goes into one of these drums. It's the same guys, the same production team, the same staff. They don't have slightly better trained people doing the collectors and slightly worse trained people knocking these out. They're all the same guys. They come from the same factory, with the same people, with the same work ethic, the same attention to detail, the same laborious design goes into them. They're so well thought out, and they share a lot of the features with the top line drums as well.
these drums, you were saying you've played these all over the world, but obviously these are new to Andertons, but they're not a new series of drums. But you saying you've actually recorded with these as well?
Yeah, they've they. I'm not going to say they record better. They just record differently because these are almost the same construction as they're the HVX shell.
Check you out, knowing your stuff. So
I'm a geek, real drum geek.
We'll quiz you then. What
Okay.
are, because all the people want to know what all the different plies are. So what are all of these? I'll be super proud if you know this. This is
okay.
This is top level geeky.
This is not me being a drum workshop endorser or artist. I'm just a geek. I'm a gear geek because I think if you do it as a job, it's your job to sound good.
These are your tools.
These are your tools. It's like somebody comes to build your brand new wood floor, which me and Peter were talking about earlier.
Which you do yourself.
Which I happen to be doing myself at the moment, hence scars all over my hands. And not knowing the difference between two different spirit levels or hammers. It's like, you need to know the tools of your trade. And I know that these are 8-inch drums, and so I know that they have one fewer ply. So these are 7-ply.
Check you out,
maple, and the bass drum and the other toms are all 8-ply, and the snare drums are 10-ply. And
it's like a full-on catalogue.
Full-on geek.
Check it out.
And these drums. So my point was going to be these drums don't have reinforcement hoops, and the collectors do. And there's something about them. They've got the same cut and countercut, the 45-degree bearing edge, but they've there's something about the fact that they don't have reinforcement hoops, which just make them a little bit lighter. The sound isn't as focused, but depending on head choice, I think these record fantastically well.
The other thing that makes them a little bit lighter, smaller lugs. So same style, same design, slightly smaller. So obviously on all, including the bass drum, all got the smaller lugs.
And I've heard people say in the past that things that they don't like about Drum Workshop and the way they look, I think those people are weird, but hey, not really, is the fact that the lug takes up so much of the shell. And these don't. I mean, these are about 3/4 or 2/3 of the size of a regular turret lug. And the history is quite interesting behind the turret lug. I mean, DW bought all its tooling from Camco. That's why they're, that sort of lineage and that homage to those.
That's why they started with sort of hardware and pedals and thrones. Then make the full kits now.
Make the full kits. I think these little lugs, they're lower mass, so more of the shell vibrates. There aren't reinforcement hoops, so more of the shell vibrates. So besides the fact that, I mean, that's something you can spec on the Collector's series, because Collector's series are completely custom, of course. So if you did like a drum without reinforcement hoops, you could spec that. But this being the price point that it is, having that as a standard option is great. It's just a slightly different sound.
So these are all the 10 colours you can buy them in, depending how old yours are. What colour, because you've got a couple of the snares and a few things, what colours are your favourite? What have you picked?
Well, I've got a jobbing, what I call my jobbing kits. I've got 2 kits in white marine pearl that have the same sort of one of everything, like an 8, 10, 12, 13, 14, 16, 18 toms, a few bass drums, and I've got 2 of those in that colour. So I got the snares in that colour thinking, well, given that 2 of the kits are in this colour, and whenever you go out, one's on a tour and you need something for something else, or one's in shipping or at a studio or wherever else, then there's some uniformity to it. And so I thought, well, I'll just get them in that.
Classic white. Yeah,
that classic white. Looks great on stage, and it's finish ply as well. I've seen a tech who'll remain nameless, Nigel, drop one of those on the edge of a riser. So the riser's like this, and he's sort of been holding one and he's sort of been polishing it or something, and just gone, and it's smashed, like the side of the shell, it's gone bang right on the side of the riser. And these finish ply are just bulletproof. If that had been a lacquer finish, it would be, it'd be game over. There'd be a massive chip in it and a dent in the lacquer and all the rest of it. But the finish ply are bomb-proof and bulletproof. So if you're a gigging player and your drums are forever in and out of bags, or you're in a band and you're traveling around and all your gear goes in the back of the van along with the guitarist's amps and the bass player's amps and all the rest of it, and things are flying around, then these finishes are bulletproof. The lacquers are prettier, but in some cases, but that white marine pearl looks fantastic under lights. Looks really great under lights. And whatever colour the lighting designer on a set or on a show or a tour or whatever decides to, you turn up with a yellow drum kit and the set is green or whatever, and they've got green lights everywhere, they're going to be like, ooh, that looks a bit weird, you know. I've heard stories about people turning up with like orange drum kits and set designers and production managers being like, well, that doesn't go with anything that we're doing. But black, white, you know, something gunmetal or something a little sparkly like that, or, you know, anything that's sort of fairly straight down the line, it goes with everything. You know, you put purple lights on that white kit and it looks a bit purple. You put green lights on it, it looks a bit green. Yeah, it goes with everything.
Yeah, I've got a white kit at home, and that is exactly, you can shine LEDs beside it,
yeah,
and change the colour of it.
Yeah. Guess what? It's a green kit now.
So what you're saying with the finished ply, if you don't trust your tech, this is the finish to go for. So there we go. Whoever Nigel is.
He's wonderful. He's wonderful, and a big guy as well. So I'm sorry, Nigel, but they're great. The finished ply drums are fantastic, and it's the same. It's the same stuff that you get. You know, the same collector's series stuff. You know, it's that finished ply you'll find on a kit that's, you know, much more expensive. All the finished plies you'll find on kits much more expensive. The lacquer isn't. It's amazing because the Go Faster red Ferrari red drums there aren't. It's not like, oh, this is a cheaper drum, so we'll put 80% of the effort in. No, it's the same guy. It's the same guys that spray them, that polish them, that lacquer them. So it's the same quality as the high-end drums.
Well, you make me laugh saying about the whole racing red. When I had this kit for review, and I had it stacked up, ready to go out to do a rehearsal during the day and then a gig in the evening, and I had half a kit and half a kit. So it's the only time I've ever played a Jelly Bean kit, because I hate Jelly Bean kits.
Yeah.
And I got to, for the rehearsal, I'm gone, great, I've got half a red kit, half a white kit, 2 different manufacturers, 2 different woods. It was a disaster.
And how did it go? Did you get fired?
No, it's the weirdest rehearsal I've ever did, and then sort of bluffed the gig. But now I've got colour-coded hard cases. That's the way around it.
Oh, that's clever.
Yeah, so hard case do like 11 different colours, so you can have bright pink, then no one walks out with your drums because they're fluorescent pink. So, but yeah, Jelly Bean kits are not cool in my opinion, and that was the only time. But literally, I had half white, half red.
Yeah, I mean, that's the other thing about these drums is I mean, those 10 colours, pretty much. I mean, anything you'd ever need is kind of in there, right? That's maybe there's no real wacky colour like yellow, or I say wacky, yellow or green, but it's kind of everything's catered for, right? It's
well, if you wanted wacky and
for
green,
the most part,
you get one that you've spec'd up and designed yourself, and have a lovely wood grain and a horrible flame design put over the top, or whatever that your
there's
taste
another
take.
There's just like going to the factory and stuff, you see these kits that are lined up that are in different parts of assembly, you know, waiting to get the lugs on or waiting to get polished the final time, and some of the spray jobs that they do are absolutely incredible, but at the same time you're like, wow, who wants that naked lady on their drums, and who wants that picture of somebody's kid? It's like a picture of somebody's kid on their drum set. It's like, that's cool that you can do that, but I don't know if I'd really want that on a stage. It's like, as proud as I am of my, you know, family, I wouldn't want pictures of them on my drum kit.
That's when you have more than one kit, yeah.
Yeah, I guess so.
Have your home kit.
Yeah, you got a kit at home.
Or you have...
To allow your wife to keep letting you buy drums, you probably put her on a kit or something. And go, oh, this one's for you, baby. Look how much I love you. Like, okay, you can buy more drums. It's fine.
You just have the naked lady on the back of the drum, so when you're sat behind it, you can see it.
Yeah, you've got something to look at, right?
I haven't actually been to the factory, but the room at the end is called the White Room, isn't it? Which is where the White House, sorry, where they take the photo and put them all together, and that's the final like check.
Yeah, and they've got DW have got an amazing Instagram, and every so often they document all their kits. So all the serial numbers on all these badges, they write down date of production and stuff, and then document it by taking a picture. And their Instagram occasionally has these most amazing looking drums. I mean, they're going to sound great as well, but yeah, they whoever's there doesn't have to try too hard at the photography because the drums do the hard work for them. But yeah, they document them all at the end of the, and at the very end of the tour, in the back of the factory, there's a showroom where they've kind of got one of everything. And you can go in and be like, oh, cherry drums, yeah, okay, I'll have a go on those. And oh, what, maple and gum and jasper, yeah, I'll give those a go, and or whatever, you know. It's amazing. It's a pretty cool place.
They actually did like an artist series of the performance in that room, didn't they? Where they had all their big players come in and play.
Yeah, they've got I don't know if it was in that room, but they've got on site in Oxnard, they've got the drum channel as well. Which you can sign up to and has lessons, and these great players as they're passing through California, and the guys that live there as well come in, and there's education staff, and Chad Wackerman did a thing about the Murray Spivak technique that he learned from Murray, and Greg Bissonette does lessons, and Terry Bozio is part of the faculty, if you like, of this education thing of drum channel, and they filmed it in there. It's basically a hangar that is kind of rigged up with this great stuff, like in here, you know. Yeah, where they recorded all that, and they got a bunch of guys, John Robinson, Tony Royster, all talking about these drums.
It would have to be a hangar to get Terry Bozio's kit in. That's
yeah, he's got
monster.
He's on staff at DW, so he's got a room, like an office, where he's got a kit in there, and
is that his full rig?
Yeah, it's amazing. It's amazing. I wouldn't want to set it up, but every time I say that and speak to his tech or anybody who works in artist relations who knows Terry, they're like, oh, they do it quicker than you'd think. You know, it's kind of everything's on a rack, and it's kind of, you know, numbered and as it would be at this stage. But in fact, there's a cool video online. I don't know what you'd search for, Terry Bozio time lapse footage, and it's got time lapse of his guys throwing his kit up, and it just looks amazing.
But there is about 4 of them, isn't there? It's not like it's
one
tech.
No.
There's like 4 guys that set that rig up.
Yeah, I think he's got a few guys working for him.
And it's like a lorry of flight cases that come in.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Big rig.
And it's all mic'd from the rack as well, so that it's consistent. You know, it's not like, oh god, where are we going to put this 57 and, you know, angle it in. It's all very well thought through.
Big jigsaw.
A big jigsaw puzzle.
So apart from DW drums, you have a big home collection, don't you? It's probably bigger than your home. You must have them spread everywhere. But
yeah, I've got a few
snares and all sorts.
Yeah, I've got. Are
we allowed to talk about them? Do
they
just have DW written in Sharpie?
No. I mean, the great thing about DW and having, you know, worked alongside them and known them for years and years, is Garrison in the US. And Dave Phillips, who does Europe and the UK, both wonderful blokes and really fantastic at their jobs. Everybody that works at DW are players as well. They all play drums. They all play and gig, and as well as make them and look after them. So they're realistic about the fact that, you know, if you need a certain sound and you're in a studio, you need a certain sound. If a producer that's, you know, paying you a bunch of money to get a very specific sound, asks you to get a very specific sound, and you're like, oh well, I don't have that specific DW drum that does that job, because you can't have everything in the range. It's like, well, I want I don't know, Black Beauty. It's like, well, okay, I've got a Black Beauty, because otherwise, you know, you won't get asked back. Well, I haven't got a Black Beauty, but I've got a DW drum that's, you know, slightly different shell construction, etc. Yeah, but I mean, I kind of wanted a Black Beauty. Okay, yeah, whatever you want, you know. It's so they're realistic about you having stuff, especially stuff that's vintage. I've got what can only be described as a problem, a snare drum problem. Well, it's not a problem for me. I love it, but I tend to collect and hoard, and again, I'm just a gear geek, so, you know, it's.
I think that describes more than one drummer. Myself and a lot of our customers have some that say their partner know about and some that are hidden that they don't know about or don't know the true value of, shall we say. Oh, this was only 200 quid when it was two grand.
Yeah, I mean, I'm lucky insofar as it's my job. So you get away with a lot of it, like, oh, I need it for this, or I need it for that, or oh no, this one does a different thing. Well, I've got, some of them need to be pared down. I've got sort of 4 Black Beauties that I've had over the years that need to get pared down. I use one all the time. And the other 3, when I went to university, I got a student loan. I was like, oh, I've got a lot of money. So I went on eBay and I bought a Black Beauty. I was like, great, I've got one. And I was always a little bit unimpressed with it. It was like, oh, this isn't the Holy Grail. It's like, I prefer my other one, you know, or some of the other drums.
Well, you say that, the Black Beauty didn't feature in your top 3, did it?
No, it didn't. But, and that's despite having 4 of them. but the point being that this particular one that I got just never sounded good. It looked great, it never sounded good. And then I bought another one when I left university and was like, oh, I should kind of give it another go. Maybe I just got a Duff one. And it was in really bad condition and it looked, you know, really awful, but it sounded fantastic. I was like, great. And then I was on tour and I was in Denver in Colorado and I went by a vintage music shop just opposite the place we were playing. And there was a Black Beauty in there in fact, it was a pawn shop. And there was a Black Beauty in there for like $100 or something, and I got them down to 80. I was like, I can't not buy that for $100. And it was like when the dollar rate was pretty much half, so you're paying half for stuff. So it was like 50 quid for a Black Beauty. I was like, I can't not buy that. So I ended up buying that. And then a rental company was getting rid of a load of its stock. And this Black Beauty had shown up on some rental stuff I'd had before. And it looked great, it was in great condition and sounded great. So I was like, I should probably buy that and get rid of the other 3.
Which you haven't yet.
I haven't gotten around to getting rid of the other 3 yet, but I will. I'll list them somewhere. And I don't want to get rid of them. It's like getting rid of kids. Actually, yeah, we'll forget that. But it's bad, I'll feel bad about that.
So the Ludi doesn't feature in the top 3, but what are the top 3?
That's really tough. It's like picking your favourite child. I struggled earlier to think about.
So you come up with a different top 3 to earlier?
Yeah.
It's a changing, a morphing top 3.
Okay, well, 3 that I use often and that I get out and I'm like, oh, this is a great drum. There's a Brady that belonged to Jeff Porcaro that I got from Joe Porcaro, which is amazing. It's like a very old, and I went to the Brady factory when I was on a tour in Australia, and I showed Chris Brady it, and he was like, "Oh yeah, that was a good one." It's like, I think he says that about everything he ever made, but he was like, "Yeah, it had the old badge, like it looked like a sticker, basically." Yeah, that's great, and it sounds brilliant.
Cool thing with that is not that you don't know its history. That must have been recorded so many times.
Yeah.
I've got vintage drums, and I'd love to know, like, if they had like a report that come with them, it would be great.
So one of the drum workshop kits I have is from my drum hero was Carlos Vega, and I have the kit that he used with James Taylor and a bunch of stuff. And I mean, he recorded a Linda Ronstadt album with it, and he was on like the Grease soundtrack, and he was on Wind Beneath Your Wings and all this epic stuff, and you're like, oh, I wonder if he used that 400 on that. So it came with the snare drum with the 400, and it's just amazing. There's a video by James Taylor called Squib Knock It that he used this big black DW kit on. So that's amazing, yeah. And like the lineage of it, it's like, wow, I wonder what cool stuff that was used on. The second snare drum is probably a Dunnet. There's a Dunnet. A titanium 14x6.5, which is brilliant, and
a Canon, I'm guessing they're pretty.
It's a Canon, yeah, and it's because the Brady's the Jara wood. This is a titanium, so it's a completely different sound, but very versatile and great sounding drum. And there's a DW Craviotto, which was made when Johnny Craviotto was making drums for DW. That might be number 3, or it might be a Gary Noonan brass snare that he made years and years ago, a 13x7 that I've used on a lot of stuff. That's the perfect pop snare drum. So when I'm not recording, I rarely record with it, but live, it pops. It's a great drum. It's got depth and body because of its depth, but it's a little narrow on the top, so it's tighter, and it's you get definition from it, and wonderful warm overtones, and it's a great drum.
What's your most unusual?
DW Craviotto. It's tough. My most unusual.
What's the if you've got over 40? You must have a really old one. Or
there's an old 15-inch Ludwig that's about 100 years old. That's absolutely amazing, absolutely beautiful, and not in great showroom condition, but it's in gigging condition. It's been looked after, and it's great. But I've never seen another one in the flesh. Never seen another one in the flesh. I've only ever seen. In fact, years ago, John Robinson used to have a Starlix video, like I guess a tuition video sort of thing, and he had one in his snare drum thing. I rewatched that fairly recently, and he had a case of a load of snare drums. And there's a bit where he pulls it out. I'm like, what? You know. I think it was that. Yeah, I think it's that one.
Do you use it as a main? 'Cause obviously, it's an inch bigger than normal, rather than having it as a side snare. For brushes, for recording stuff, for making loops, things like that. With it's fantastic. I don't gig it. I record with it, but I don't really take it out. I mean, there's no gig that I do where it's like, I know, I'll use that 100-year-old 15-inch Ludwig snare, you know. But it sees the light of day in recording studios and film sort of sounding stuff, and it sounds its age. So if there's anything in particular that you need that particular sound for, like I say, you wouldn't gig it. You wouldn't take it out on a gig doing Mr. Brightside in a function, you know. It just wouldn't sound right. But for what it does, there's nothing else that can do that job other than that snare drum. It sounds great. If you think about it, like Ed Sullivan happened, and Ringo all of a sudden was on TV, and everybody was like, I want to be a drummer, or, you know, loads of my heroes are playing because of Ringo, because they saw him on that show and were like, oh my God, that's so cool, I want to do that. And I suppose if you think about it, that the volume of drums that they then had to churn out the factory are of varying degrees of quality, because they had to make so many drums. You know, it's like, what wood have we got? Oh, just throw it together, you know, bang it together and get it out. You know, we've got 300 back order kits kind of thing, you know. So you can find some great drums from like the 60s and like 50, 60 years ago. And some kind of iffy ones as well. That's what I mean, like with the Black Beauty sort of thing, you know, from the quality took a dip at a stage, and like the 70s stuff, some of the 70s stuff I've got from them is a little bit like, cool, at least it sounds good because it's not made well. You know what I mean? Like, well, I've got 60 and 70s actually, and I just hate the throw-offs. They're so weedy and...
P85s?
Yeah. You're a geek. Love it.
Yeah.
I just think they're so... And compared to this beautiful thing, which is actually magnetic,
yeah,
the horrible, doesn't necessarily always clip up P85 is minging.
The mag throw, I remember being in at the factory with Garrison. Garrison was taking me around, and I think he had something to do with the design of this, because they built like a plastic version. I remember seeing it vividly, and he was like, you can't tell anyone. But there was a plastic version that looked exactly the same, that they'd mocked up, because he'd had the idea about having the magnets in the throw. And I mean, that's about, pulling that off, that's about as silent as you can get. I mean, obviously these are leaving contact with the drum, but I mean, like, you're doing that recording and you're trying to be subtle about something. The wires are off, you know, it's not like ka-dunk, dong, or whatever, you know, it's like, and it's not going anywhere as well, because there's that magnet thing, and you've got It's completely adjustable from the front, a key for finite things, and this is the same. This is the same as on the flagship drums, as on drums that you'd find that are twice as expensive, and it doesn't have the 3-point throw, the 3-point mag thing, but that works just as well. I mean, like, it's not going anywhere. It's a brilliant, brilliant system.
Thanks, Mark, for coming in today. Thank you for you guys for checking this video out on Drum Addicts on Andertons TV. This has been the Performance Series video. There'll be a link below with all the gear in the description. Subscribe somewhere left or right on the bottom of the screen as well, and we'll see you next time.